Kelsey. This is my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I am wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and today I'm bringing you a monthly recommendations video. Monthly Recommendations is a Goodreads group created by Trina from Between Chapters and Kayla Rain. I will link the group down below so you can check it out and take part in the topics if you wish to do so. Every month there's a new topic, and anyone who likes can make a video, blog post, whatever you do to recommend books, suggesting a list of books for this topic. And the topic for March is duologies. Now, there have been a number of really popular, specifically YA duologies over the past couple years, and I have read some of those. I have not read others of those. For this list, I'm going to be recommending more adult titles than YA, and I'm going to be recommending things that are hopefully a little less ubiquitous on BookTube right now. The first duology I'm going to recommend is a massive undertaking to read, but also one of my all-time favorites. And these are the Orphans Tales by Catherynne and Valente. The first is in the Night Garden, and the second is in the Cities of Coin and Spice. And as you can tell, these are like physically massive books, and the stories themselves are also quite sprawling. These are nested stories within stories. Each volume has two relatively self-contained story arcs within it, and by story arcs I mean like nested story arcs. So someone in the story tells a story, and you go many layers deep and then back out and then deep again and then back out, and eventually you get back to where you started. And by the end, not only do each of the four story arcs make sense, but they also connect to each other to form a bigger picture. But you have to have patience to get there because it's not linear storytelling and the writing style is very, very dense and lyrical. The frame story of the whole shebang is about this girl in a garden who is compelled to tell these stories that are written on her eyelids to someone who will listen. And there's a boy, a young prince, who sneaks out into the garden to listen to her tell her tales. This is some of the most wildly fantastical writing I have ever read. It's all like deep, dark, weird, sometimes gruesome fairy tale. The imagination in these books is just absolutely wild. And I would love to reread these at some point, but I haven't made the time for it. These are great. They were the first books I ever read by Valente, and I'm not sure I would recommend them to everyone as the place to start with her work. They're not super accessible, but if you love this sort of storytelling, this is just some of the purest stuff of it that I have ever encountered. The next books I've got on this list are the only sort of YA that I'm including in this video, but they are older fantasy books and have been marketed anywhere from middle grade to adult in various editions. And these are Robin McKinley's Damar books. Now these are less a straightforward duology and more properly a book and its prequel. The Blue Sword was published first, and The Hero and the Crown takes place first. This one takes place long, many generations before The Blue Sword, and it concerns a character who is, in this book, an ancient legend. These were a couple of the sort of early-ish feminist fantasy books that I grew up with, of the type where, like, hey look, a girl can ride into battle or fight a dragon too. The Blue Sword is a little more straightforward as a book. It fits the mold of today's YA a little better. It's about a girl who has this destiny that she doesn't understand, and she gets swept away to fulfill that destiny. It has a pretty formulaic romance that I nevertheless enjoy a lot, and enjoyed a lot when I was a teenager. And The Hero and the Crown is a little bit of an odder book to me. The first part is equally sort of predictable YA-ish. It's about Erin, who's sort of an underdog princess. No one takes her seriously at court. She teaches herself how to fight dragons and goes off to slay the big dragon with her trusty horse. And then things get really bizarre. The dragon is slain like halfway through the book, and so it turns out that that wasn't really what this was all driving towards in the first place. at all. The real true evil is bigger and darker and weirder, and Aaron is like reeling from the trauma of the dragon slaying. The romantic storyline in this book is kind of ambiguous and vaguely unsatisfying, and this book will forever stand out in my memory as the book where the heroine, like, climbs the endless magical tower to the final, magical confrontation, and all she can think about is how much she is itching from this giant rash. So, as I said, these can be read in either order. This is the book of the duology that I have, like, that teenage nostalgia for, but this one might be a more interesting book. And then the last two duologies I want to briefly mention here are Tor.com novella duologies. The first is the duology that consists of River of Teeth and Taste of Marrow by Sarah Gailey. I read River of Teeth on my Kindle, and I have this library copy of Taste of Marrow. I recently finished this duology, and so I am going to do a series review for it, so I'm not going to talk too much about it here because I've already promised that series review. This is a sort of shamelessly fun alt-history western about a cast of characters who are like the hippo wrangler alternative to cowboys in a world where America has a feral hippo problem. These are super fast-paced and very character-driven, and they are the sort of fluff that is fun because you wouldn't have expected this premise for a book, and good because the characters are all handled really well and interestingly. And then the last Tor.com novella duology that I want to recommend in this video is one where I've loaned out my copies so I don't have them right now, and that is the Waning Moon duology by Leena Likitalo. The first book is The Five Daughters of the Moon, and the second book is The Sisters of the Crescent Empress. This is a fantasy story set in a fantasy world, but inspired by the Russian Revolution and the Romanov siblings. We follow the Five Daughters of the Moon, who are the daughters of the Crescent Empress, as the Crescent Empire undergoes political upheaval. And this is a very slow-paced duology. I think the first book is weaker than the second book. It takes a while for the pieces of the story to come together into something cohesive. The second book is also longer than the first, and I had more of an emotional reaction to it. Basically, this is a story that switches between the perspectives of all five girls and is concerned with their inner lives more than it's concerned with the actual things that are happening in the Empire. We don't actually see much of that stuff because the characters don't see it. They only hear rumors of what is happening. And it's about these five girls in a really perilous situation who are gradually losing their ability to have any control over the outcome. It's really focused on the relationships between the five main characters, how their perceptions of each other change, the secrets that they keep from each other. And it's got some very strange magic that isn't straightforward and is not really completely explicable. So this is very atmospheric, slow-paced fantasy, if that is sort of your thing. It is sort of my thing. Anyhow, those are the duologies I'm going to recommend today. Let me know if you've read any of these. Also, let me know if you have read any duologies that are less popular and less hyped. Anyhow, I hope you're having a nice day. That is all. Bye for now.